and a whole lot more. And that's why the X300 series takes care of everything, with attachments for all your spring and summer projects. Because you're not just doing yard work, you're creating common ground for the whole neighborhood to enjoy. Nothing runs like a Deere. Run with us. Search John Deere X300 for more.
They take the jeers when they lose, and some say get too many cheers when they win. This week's Geico Go-To Player goes to the people who run the show, the coaches.
Geico's Go-To Player.
Whether it's one of the greats of the game like Vince Lombardi, Bill Belichick, or Pat Summitt, or maybe it's your old high school driver's ed teacher who doubles as the wrestling coach. Whatever sport you watch or play, it simply wouldn't be the same without that person in charge. So to folks who draw up that perfect play, we salute you. Go to geico.com and you can save as much as 15% on your auto insurance in as little as 15 minutes.
Now here's word about a free home buyer workshop on Wednesday, April 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Century 21 Lois Lauer, 1998 Orange Tree Lane, California exit of the 10 freeway in Redlands. Dinner will be provided. There's opportunity prizes and giveaways, but seating is limited. Learn to provide strategies for home buying in 2019. Create your action plan. Learn about credit, mortgage, insurance, and more. Hosted by Elite Financial Credit, Financial 2000, and Joe Amlani, State Farm. RSVP today at 909-570-9048. That's 909-570-9048 or info at elitefinancialcredit.com.
Talk 102.3 FM Riverside. Thank you, America, for making us radio's number one format for 8 years. Talk 102.3 FM Riverside. KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Right before me, my newfound hippie side. Once ignored these conspiracies online. Out the window, visions of the earth. Sign me up now, make sure you use your smart. Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Would your children ride to see Mother Nature's side?
Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Welcome to Smart Health Talk, everyone. I'm your host, Elaine McFadden. And those of you that are new to the show, I'm actually a registered dietitian with a master's in public health. And I'd like to think I'm kind of the new age kind of dietitian where I'm pretty adamant about the number one goal of most people should be to eat as much organic fruits and vegetables to start as possible. And you're probably thinking, oh, we can't afford that. But yes, you can. Of course you can afford it if you go down and get it farmer direct at the farmer's market. That's a good way to start. And then if you buy products in season, that's another good way to start. But unfortunately, the organic world has been muddied by big chemical. And a lot of products, when they're not in season, are probably hydroponic. We have a hydroponic was not supposed to be part of the USDA program because it's a soil-based program, not a water and chemical-based program. And the reason they got in is really big companies paid the right people. And that's how things change. And hydroponic, some new news that's coming out about hydroponic as well. And we're talking organic hydroponic, which to me just is kind of a oxymoron type of saying, that the USDA allows them to use Roundup glyphosate to spray the bottom areas of the greenhouse. Now, a greenhouse is a confined area. So if they're spraying Roundup on the floor of the greenhouse, then there's no doubt that it's also getting on the produce that's inside the greenhouse, because it will drift for hundreds and thousands of miles. So I'm sure it'll drift a couple of feet, in a greenhouse. This is really disturbing. Because our USDA program was set. The whole reason it came about was because some really dedicated people, including organic farmers and politicians like Senator Hatch, they worked for 13 years to create that program. And that was a lot of volunteer time on their part. And the reason they were doing it is because they wanted to get chemicals out of the organic program. They wanted to have a product people could trust. And now that it's become profitable because people are waking up that poison, not good to put in your body or on your body or breathe or anything, any of the above. People are starting to wake up to that and buy organic. And so now it's become profitable in that volume, because these big companies, I call them the Big 10, never wanted to get in organic before unless they bought a company, which is the only way that they have organic products. They never started any themselves because the profit margin on a conventional product, because of taxpayer subsidies and high processed, long shelf life, these products are what they desire. That's their number one goal, is to have high profit margin products that last for a long time on the shelf. And those are the highly processed products. These are not fresh fruits and vegetables. So that's why, it's big business. And that's why they keep trying to convince you to buy those products. How many fruit and vegetable commercials do you see except for Cuties? And I was happy to see that they do have an organic version of Cuties now, because so many parents buy those for their kids, and Sprouts had it, but I thought it was curious that their Cuties advertisement in the last ad that I received didn't mention the organic ones, only the conventional ones. So again, that's a higher profit margin for them. So they don't even want to promote the organic when they have a Cuties ad for those little tangerines. And I saw them in the store like the day before, and I get the ad the next day, and I'm like, well, how come they're not mentioning that they have organic ones there in the ad? This is because the industry is the government, these companies that make the chemicals. They are not for us. It is an us versus them situation. And what does that come down to? That means that we have to take responsibility. We cannot trust what these people are telling us in their sales ad. They're just trying to sell us a product. They could care less about our health. And so many of these companies, I see over and over the ad for, oh, we're the number one vitamin and supplement company. We're USP approved, big friggin' deal. You're nothing but some sort of synthetic chemical vitamin company. I don't buy those products. I buy companies that make products that come from real food. Because guess what? When you're using supplements or a protein powder or any of these kind of products that come from real food, you're not going to OD on any of those products, okay? If it's coming from beets and carrots and parsley, even if you ate 10 pills, it's not going to hurt you. But we know that these supplements can be toxic in large doses. We really don't know. And there's doctors prescribing 50,000 unit vitamin D out there, which I do not support. And I did see an article that came out that said that was toxic to your liver, which is the first thing that came to my mind. And they're giving it to people because they're like, oh, you're low in vitamin D. Well, I'll tell you, that is not like the best. There are so many other ways to get good quality vitamin D. And their research, what are they basing this on? That like somehow someone's like every single day after that, they're at total risk, when Instead, why don't we start like looking at what they're eating, see what kind of changes we can make in that respect? Because I totally, even though I was doing a lot of good things, I still had to make adjustments in my diet because of things that I was being exposed to in my own home. People treating for termites with one of the most toxic gases on our planet that they're letting out right in our neighborhoods, Vicane, for termites. That's like allowed in Puerto Rico and Hawaii, which you think about. Those are islands that have all kinds of wind currents going on. For one thing, even though I don't think it should be used anywhere, it's a chemical weapon. And anyone that's thinking about like treating termites, please do not tent your house and use Vicane. There's orange oil is an alternative. So, these things are going on all around us, but we have a new study that just came out. It's a really good study. And they actually measured how much pesticides different families how much they had in their urine after an organic diet, and then started with a conventional, then they went to organic, and it was like major on how much difference in pesticide level was in their urine on a conventional versus a chemical diet. And if you're pregnant, if you're thinking about having children, I highly recommend that both parents get on an organic diet before you get pregnant. This is going to affect the quality of the sperm, especially the mothers that are exposed to this all the time. Their eggs are sitting there in their ovaries their entire life. So everything you're exposed to, your future children are being exposed to. And if you go to bluemonarchproject.com, you'll see on our homepage, we actually got the records for all the pesticides used in San Bernardino County for a year. Please go and look what they're using at Redlands School District, at Loma Linda Academy. And this is like I'm sure that this is like pretty much reflective of what other school districts are doing around the country. They're spraying Roundup, which 2 cases have been decided, a $289 million case and a new federal case in San Diego for in California and San Francisco for $22 million, saying that Roundup causes cancer. But that's not even the worst of it. The worst of it are these hormone disruptors that are being used on school campuses or across the street at farms located right next to schools, and they're using hormone disruptors, which is going to sabotage the ability of those teenagers to have children in the future. So, and then people that are exposed to this and then have children, there's a chance that those children could have girls could be born with less eggs. Boys could be prevented from triggering sperm production after they're born, which will sabotage them later on. These are things that we've talked about on our show before with top scientific experts, and that's why we're so very concerned. I'd really like to ask people to be aware of these commercials that you're seeing on television for Scott's, for weed and feeds. Weed and feed means that it has pesticides in it. And if you're going to buy these products and apply them to your lawn, that is pesticides. And we have so many people love birds and they're buying bird seed, but they don't realize that bird seed has been fumigated. Scott's was actually fined millions of dollars for poisoning bird seed for years. And so good Samaritans that wanted to help birds were actually poisoning them. Well, these seeds are grown with pesticides, plus they're fumigated in warehouses. So, but the thing is, you're feeding the bird seed, but the most important thing you could do is not use pesticides, because we're destroying all our insects. We're actually at a point right now where the insect population is in very, very vulnerable state. We're pretty much destroying our insect population, which is critical for so many different things. Most of what birds eat are insects, and yet we're killing them. And this weed and feed, we have butterflies, we have bees that go on that lawn. These pesticides are so strong that one seed coated with them can kill 360,000 bees. And we are allowing more of these neonicotinoids, the dicamba, 2,4-D. Our government is just letting the EPA just like turn a blind eye. They're not even doing anything right now when it comes to like protection of pesticides, reviewing pesticides for toxicities. None of this is even happening right now. So the only thing that we can do is take responsibility for what we have control of. And that number one thing is what you buy and bring into your home, what you buy and feed your family or yourself. And that's something that we do control, and we can trust most of what's out there, especially if you get it farm direct. Then you know it's not hydroponic. That if it's not in season, I'm telling you, I don't even know anymore what they're growing hydroponically. I mean, I'm sure they're trying to get away with as much as possible because, again, we've created what I mentioned in the beginning of the show, that high profit margin. That is what these huge corporations want. And we should be rebelling against huge corporations controlling our food supply. We should be rebelling against it with everything we have. If we're true Americans, why are we letting these big corporations run our life? We were built on rebellion and solidarity and like self-reliance. You know, we become so dependent, and we just like listen to these people and just buy whatever they give us and not even question it. I tell you, I've been trying to make the time I've saved a bunch of commercials that just really disturb me, and what the messages that they're giving to people, it's not right. These hydroponic, cherries, they're good. If they have their way, everything that we eat will be hydroponic, and it's the biggest ripoff of nutrition that you can imagine, because what happens in soil versus what these chemicals are giving us is not the same. No way. And they're just guessing. We don't even really know what happens in the soil yet. There's so many magical things happening in there that make plants stronger and have more nutrition, more denser nutrition, that we have not even really come to understand yet. But please go to bluemonarchproject.com and start looking at what pesticides are being used. It is incredibly disturbing. And while you're at Blue Monarch Project, go to our store, because now we're starting with our milkweed sales, and our Blue Monarch Project is a monarch butterfly sanctuary. We raise thousands of monarch butterflies during the summertime. Actually, we had them up to we released our last one, I think, in February, which was crazy. It shouldn't have happened. It's not a good thing. But there's so few, we couldn't just let them die. But we're hoping this year there's supposed to be some more. But the problem is the pesticides. These neonicotinoid pesticides are just so toxic. And I see all these ads for Roundup. I'm just so upset when we know this causes cancer, that these television stations are playing these ads, and that the plants that they're selling at Lowe's and Home Depot and these other big nurseries are all sprayed with pesticides. You can avoid that by, first of all, buy your milkweed from us if you can, and get seeds, organic seeds, and grow things from scratch, or find suppliers that have organic plants that have been grown with organic seeds. That they'll also be the healthiest. I have gotten so many of these plants from these home improvement stores, and you bring them home and you can just tell how weak they are. They just die at a drop of a hat. They're so weak, and it just shows how few nutrients and what chemicals that they've been raised on has not made them strong. And so if something is not in season, number one, that it's probably hydroponic. And if you go to our Smart Health Talk website under gardening, we have a list of what foods are in season when. So you can kind of use that as a guideline, and it also can help you know when to plant. We have all kinds of guidelines on what you should plant when, companion planting, what's in season. All those things are under our gardening tab. And while you're at smarthealthtalk.com, check out our resources tabs, because our resources tab, it has a drop down We have for Easter coming up, we have all kinds of suggestions on organic chocolate and goodies that you can put in the Easter basket instead of conventional artificial flavor, artificial color packed foods. And yeah, you can buy them cheap at the 99-cent store or Rite Aid or whatever, Walmart. But really, is that, what are you buying? You're buying GMOs, you're buying pesticides, you're buying artificial flavor and sugar, that you're going to what? Give a big old pile of that to your kid? It's just, to me, it's just not even worth the money. I would rather give my child a few really good quality pieces of candy, if that's what you want to give them, and there's other things that you can get too. There's like organic popcorn out there. You get little bags of popcorn, maybe some things that have like a little bit more fiber in there. But the bottom line is, those products they're very low quality, and they're full of harmful things that are doing bad stuff to your child. We have kids with all kinds of allergies and getting cancer and all different kinds of problems. They're very vulnerable now because, again, so much of the food that we have is lacking in good quality concentrated nutrition. And then you're taking a supplement that's made from synthetic chemicals. So it's just like, first of all, we have over 30% of the people that are obese, and then we add on the overweight, we're like at 50%. So there's probably half of the people out there that really should be eating less calories, let's face it. And you're probably eating too much. And look at the money that you're spending. Oh yeah, we get a deal because we get like 3 meals for $20 of hamburgers over at Burger King or something like that. How many calories are in there? And what is that burger really made of? Where did it come from? Some factory farm in Brazil? And what kind of fillers did they put in there? GMO soy? Where's that bread coming from? It's probably was sprayed with Roundup before it was harvested, and the grains that are in there, and it's some hydroponic tomato. I mean, what are you really buying there? You can go down. There was a special at Aldi. They had like it was like a pound, I can't remember, but it was normally like $8 for organic grass-fed beef. They had it for $6.50. And, you could have went down and bought, you buy like 5, 10 at one time. When you have a special, stick some in the freezer, and then you have it ready to go. So you can make your own hamburger so easy at home. Just so easy. And you can buy organic bread, buns instead. And just make a hamburger at home. I tell you, for $20, you could get 2 packages of that. I make like 4 hamburgers out of each package. So, even at $6, that's what? That's not even $2 each for the meat. And the other stuff is like cheap compared to that. Like a couple pickles, a squirt of mustard. I mean, and the fries. That is like a big nothing. They're GMO potatoes fried in GMO oil. It's just not even worth it. So, but for the time that you would go sit in the drive-in and get back home with the food, if you went and bought, the 5 or 10 packages at one time, you could make a hamburger probably faster than going through the drive-through line. And you could teach your kids how to do it so they can start to learn how to cook. This is the kind of things that I dream of, that we get people away from this horrible fast food. And you may have, if you missed one of our previous shows, we mentioned that raw milk, a new study came out where raw milk was found protective for allergies and for asthma. I mean, this is huge. Asthma is so expensive. And just think of what it feels like to not be able to breathe. I just think that's one of the scariest things out there, and that our children are suffering with this. I see commercials now for some allergy medication for kids, and I'm watching that commercial, and I just think as a parent, would you rather for your child to be on some allergy medication and suffering every single day? Or can we just give them organic raw milk? I know it's more expensive, but so is asthma. So is allergy. So is allergy medication. Why not just prevent it from even happening? This study, they prove that even kids in the city get the benefits, just like the kids on the farm, when they drink raw milk. And Organic Pastures is our biggest raw milk producer for California. They're the biggest. They're one of the biggest in the country. And people come, come from all over the world to go to Organic Pastures and study what they do there. They are so clean and everything that they do. And when you buy a bottle of Organic Pastures milk, guess what's in that bottle? Organic Pastures milk only. When you buy a bottle of milk at the store, they have dumped multiple farms into one giant vat. You have no clue where it came from. There's no traceability. So Organic Pastures, the cows, they hang out in a pasture. They have a electric wire, which they really don't even need to turn on after a while because the cows they know to stay away from it. And they eat grass all day. That's their life. And when we treat our animals like that, we actually, if we grazed all our animals, we would offset all of the carbon that we produce in this country right now. And I saw some story about, we're going to capture the carbon that we're putting in the air from burning oil and coal, and we're going to store it underground. So we can keep on using oil and coal, and we don't have to miss a beat. So we found this new way of doing it. Oh, yeah. That sounds really, really clever, everybody, doesn't it? Yeah, let's build these giant, expensive units to store carbon so we can keep burning oil and coal when we have alternatives. I mean, why are we going in that direction? Do we really want to keep pumping all that crap into the air? Or do we want clean air to breathe? I tell you, it's in Maryland, it's 85% of the people are breathing air that is considered unhealthy. And they were ready to start cleaning up the air until the Republicans figured, if we put all this money into getting this Republican guy elected, because they'd had a Democratic governor for a very, very long time, and the Democrats had worked on all this cleaning up the air, stopping all the runoff from the chicken farms into the bay that was killing a multi-billion-dollar seafood industry, and everything that Maryland was all about. We were ready to implement that. So all those people that would lose because they had to start following these new rules and they wanted to keep doing it the cheap way, like we've been talking about through the whole show, they said, you know what, it would be cheaper to get this Republican guy elected than to have to do all these rules that are about ready to be implemented. So his very first day in office, all that stuff signed away. No more protecting the bay and that multi-billion-dollar seafood industry. No more cleaning up the air so that people in Maryland could actually breathe healthy air instead of unhealthy air. Now, we wouldn't want that to happen, would we? So we have to take a stand here, people. It's just going to keep getting worse. Every single waterway is contaminated with multiple chemicals and some of the worst of the worst. We know Teflon causes cancer. Well, what about all the chemicals that they use to make Teflon? Those chemicals are even worse. And they're in wells. They're in the water supply where people have no access. They have to give up their entire land because there is no clean water source on their land. Although I'm hoping that we're working on better filters out there. I did see one on Shark Tank that looked a little bit promising for arsenic and lead, which that's really great because as a dietitian, I had to learn all about lead and what it does to developing brains. Again, just like these pesticides destroy brains, lead destroys brains. It really, really does, everyone. I mean, it impairs our children from learning. Do we want a bunch of stupid American children here? Because that is what we are creating with these chemicals. We're giving them multiple health problems. We're destroying their brains and their ability to even feel and learn and be real people. When we have a choice to get away with it, and when we start making sure that the products that we're buying is sending a message of what we want, where we say, we don't want pesticides in our product. We don't want something from some big corporation that's actually creating some cheap organic product. You know, we want the best. And that's what I tell everyone. It's like, nothing but the best for this body right here. I'm sorry. I'm fighting for my body with every single thing that I have. Because this is the only body I got. And without it, I'm dead. And tell you, disease is an ugly thing. Really an ugly, painful thing. You have to keep your immune system strong. And I mentioned BioK on this show. I'm going to mention two things. Just had someone close to me be exposed to a really bad coughing, some sort of coughing virus probably. Flu virus, and elderberry. They found some, I'm like, find some elderberry. They found some elderberry tablets that just dissolved on their tongue. Got them the BioK. It wasn't a bacterial infection, but the BioK still helps keep your gut healthy, which keeps your immune system healthy, which helps you fight whether it's a bacteria or a virus. And I guess ran into the guy that probably got him sick to begin with, and the other guy was like all coughing and gagging and like obviously way sicker than him, and he was almost completely well. So I make my own elderberry juice. I buy Frontier, which is one of the most Frontier Co-op is one of the best companies on the planet. They have every kind of spice, herb. You want to make different concoctions at home. They have all of those sources of all those different dried plants that you can use, barks, you name it. And if you have a resale number, you can join the co-op. And that means you get a discount on everything. And you can buy bulk stuff. And if you go to Amazon and you type in like organic elderberries, the Frontier bag of dried elderberries comes up. And I just put some of those elderberries, about kind of like 4 to 1 probably, in a pan with water, probably more than that. Probably put about, I'd say like at least a third of a cup of elderberries, probably to like 3 cups of water. And just get it up to a boil, simmer it, turn it down, simmer it for like 10 minutes, put the lid on and let it sit, and mush it up with a masher, and then put it through a strainer and just drink that every day. And especially if you're around a lot of sick people, if you're in the healthcare profession, I highly recommend that, because the only alternative is like Tamiflu, which is a prescription of an antiviral. And those elderberries are really good for helping with the viruses. So I highly recommend including that in your diet. But keeping your immune system strong is everything. So there was some really big recalls that have happened this week. We have Chips Ahoy Chewy cookies recalled. And I tell you, I was looking because I remember my mother saying way back when that they never got hard because there was plastic in there. And I went back and looked to try to find if there was any evidence, because the recall, the reason I did was the recall had said that there was like some sort of a weird solid found in the cookies that could influence health in a negative way. And you're kind of like, what? What is that? What did they really find in there? What is that? That's what made me remember my mother's plastic reference. And I could just find one thing on the internet that said that people used to say that, but when you look at the ingredients, of course they don't say plastic. They say these, it used to be hydrogenated oil. Now they don't say hydrogenated oil. They just say that they use like some sort of shortening, I think. But the thing is, they can have. Oh yeah, and then it was interesting that people kept calling to try to find out what do you do? What do you do to make the cookies stay soft? And it's only the chewy ones that are being recalled. None of the other cookies. Only those, the ones that never get hard. And so all these people have called and tried, and what they say every time is it's elf magic. Their answer is it's elfin magic. That's what keeps them soft. The thing is, they are allowed to put things in products and not tell us on the ingredient label. If they're added at different places. One guy was actually adamant, and he kept saying, "Okay, I want a clear answer here. What the heck you put in there?" So he got to the VP of marketing. That guy told him it's a trade secret and it's proprietary information, and for competitive reasons, we can't tell you how it's done. But they did say it contains no new chemical additives or harmful ingredients of any kind. As we have told you guys before, all of these chemicals that they're adding to foods, which there's over 2,000 of them at least, they are tested in isolation. They are never tested when you mix things together. So that's kind of one red flag right there. But the fact that they never get hard, you have to really wonder, how do they do it? There's nobody else out there that does it, okay? This is kind of... And the fact that they're recalling, and they're not telling the reason. They just said that there's some sort of a blob type thing that was found in there. I don't know. I'm really kind of suspicious. Oh, and we had another recall, too, of like 20,000 pounds of ready-to-eat beef patties. And all of these are going to schools. Now, it brought back a memory of when they had to send millions of pounds of beef to the landfill. And I know that because I actually talked to the food service director about this personally. And it was very interesting because she was sitting on a big bulk of it in Clark County, which is over in the Las Vegas area. And she said that they were actually escorted with that 1 million pounds. It was over 1 million. I can't remember the exact amount. I know it was over 1 million. Can you imagine that they were transporting 1 million pounds of beef to the landfill, and they were escorted there to make sure that that beef was taken to the landfill and nowhere else? When you are mass producing factory farmed meat, these things happen over and over again. We're having one recall after another, people getting sick, people dying from this. Is like dirty, nasty food practices is what it comes down to. And that's why I just don't even want that food. I have a choice, and I just say to heck with it. And when I was going to working at the schools, trying to bring healthy food to the schools with the public health department here in San Bernardino County, I had students that were finding meat that had a full vein in it. I mean, you could literally see the vein. And that's because these commodities that they sell to school, it's a dumping ground for the food industry of all the crap food. Where they send this crap food also is for animal feed. Even things like Skittles, bakery products that have expired, they feed that to the animals, and then you eat the meat or drink the milk. So that they get less money for than if they sell it to the school district commodity program through the government. So that's the kind of food that's being sold to our kids. And now Trump wants to take away our school food program. Now, I know a lot about that school food program because I was very involved in working with food service directors. And my kids were on the school food program at one point when I was a student. And I'll tell you, that program, even though I have seen all the junk that they sell as part of the school food program, not all school districts are created equal. There are actually school food service directors that are trying to work with local farmers to bring fresher, healthier food in, and actually having kitchens again where they make meals instead of having all these pre-made type meals. But that program actually does a lot of good. It, first of all, helps kids get higher test scores, which then help that child succeed. We want our children to succeed, all children, because if they graduate, there's a lower chance of them ending up in the social service system, the justice system, which can save thousands and thousands of dollars just for that one person because they didn't finish high school. They ended up getting involved in a gang or crimes or something like that. And then they become part of the system. Then they go to prison and they have a couple of kids and, that family's now on a social system. It's just a vicious cycle. So when we help our children succeed in school, we can help them succeed in life. And then they don't end up like on these other programs. So that's one thing. Also, less violence. When kids are hungry, how do you get when you're hungry? Ornery, kind of angry, What about the kids? They're sitting there. They haven't had breakfast, It's getting to be 10, 11 o'clock. Their poor little tummies are hungry and they hurt. And so they act out in class, which disrupts the whole class. And so your child that's in there is now like not getting their full education because you have disruptive kids in class because they're hungry. We have less trips to the nurse because there's tummy hurts. So they end up going to the nurse, which is also, it's disruptive to the entire class. They are at school more, especially if there's breakfast. Attendance goes up. The test scores, the attendance is a win-win for the school district and the state because they do not get money unless that child's booty is in that seat at school. And so it's a win-win when we can do something that actually gets the kids to come to school. All right? So, there is just like so many different pluses for just a little bit of a food program that's costing, like 50, 75 cents a student per day. It's not even that much for everything that you get back long term. And that's what we need to start looking at more and more. A new report came out saying that we have the potential to save trillions of dollars with a single payer program. And I've got a guest that hopefully will be on our show soon that he pretty much came up with the same kind of numbers when he calculated for a state to go on a single payer program. So, Jeffrey Sachs, our top scientists are telling us that this is the way to go because we're streamlining the program. We're taking away all these extra costs that are actually only there to create profits for insurance companies. So that is not the smart way to do it. And we can do this much, much better. So that's what I'm hoping for, that we are going to start working on that. Now, there was some other really important things in the news. They're actually going to start selling GMO salmon in Canadian stores, which is another very disturbing thing. GMO salmon is just wrong in so many different ways. First of all, the food to feed these farm fish is depleting the precious small fish supplies in our oceans. To get the fish meal that they need to feed those fish artificially means that people come, and the way that they're fishing, they're taking these small fish that are critical for feeding the other fish in the food chain. And they take that and they make fish meal. And these fish grow way bigger. So that means they're eating more. So they're taking away more and more from our wild salmon supplies, which are the ones that actually have the omega-3s in there. Farm fish, you don't get the omega-3s. You know that their meat is not even pink because they're not eating the plankton that real wild salmon eat while they're in the ocean and they're through their different lifespan. So because their flesh is gray, they have to feed them dye in their food to make it salmon colored. So the only reason that the meat in the farm salmon is pink is because they put dye in their food. And oh, what is that food? Well, I mentioned the fish meal that they're depleting the small fish from, but also GMO soy. Yeah, that good old GMO soy full of Roundup. That's what they're feeding, and they're leaving them in these pens where they pee and poop, and they're all in this little tiny space, and they end up with lice all over their body, and they have multiple viruses and bacterial infections that they harvest them and kill them before they start showing up. But sometimes, like Dr. Morton, if you go to our website and find it is under our resources tab, she actually went into the store and tested the fish being sold in the store. But while she was there, she was pointing out, we have the video on our website, pointing out the sores on the fish because the disease was starting to show. But people are eating these viruses. So I'm telling you, don't buy farm salmon. If you go out to eat, say, where is your salmon from? Is it wild? If they go, oh, it's Norwegian. Oh, it's Atlantic. It's farmed, okay? And again, the profit margin, because they're feeding it GMO, soy. That's disgusting. And when you look at the nutrient levels, like the omega-3s are like way low, but guess what's super high? Dioxin. Dioxin is like some really bad poison, okay? And you're eating it in the friggin' farm fish. And so when you have a fish that is like, I don't know, it must be like 10 times as big, or it's at least 5 or 6 times as big. It's using up even more of this. And when we have wild salmon, when we eat wild salmon, we're supporting fishermen families as well. And Alaska is where to get. You want Alaskan salmon, number one. I don't trust any other salmon. The whole operation that's going on up in Alaska is a role model for the rest of the world, and we need to duplicate what they have been doing since the 1950s. We've had the Alaskan Seafood Institute on our show, and I can tell you all about this because I learned from them. And it's just an incredible program that they have in Alaska, and they make the best quality seafood. And we don't have to worry about radiation. They've been testing all this seafood, and there's nothing there. So if that was something you were worried about, you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so we have, so finally, our own government came out with a report that says, oh, there's a link between cancer and Roundup. So finally, our own government is actually starting to say that. This is really a big deal. Now, Monsanto and these big corporations have wormed their way into key positions within our government. These are people that worked for the big corporation and did everything they could to stop any kind of policy that was going to clean things up and get rid of pesticides and stop using their product. That these people have done everything they can to prevent those things from happening, from policy being changed that would benefit people and the environment. And we are now giving them key positions under government. It's definitely putting the wolf in charge of the hen house. It just doesn't even make any sense, and it's extremely scary. So the new Trump pick, former Monsanto executive to head the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I am not happy about that. I am not happy about that at all. Because I know how these people are. They do not change. They were hired because they were for them. Yes, there are people that can start to see that, what those people were doing was a bad thing. But I find that it happens mostly going the other way, where those people are loyal. And who knows? Monsanto could say, hey, when you get in there, get this policy passed. We'll make sure you get paid for that. Who knows what's going on? I don't trust them. I want someone in that position that has absolutely no ties to any of these people. Okay, records show the EPA efforts to slow herbicide review came in coordination with Monsanto. Like I tried to tell you, the EPA is not our friend. They are working with these companies. And so to slow herbicide review while they let them use the product. That's what's happening. There is our social media where we keep you keep track of all the latest type things, that products that you would want to buy, organic products. We do a lot of reviews for those. And we were just talking about seafood. Well, I told you our resources section, we have a huge seafood section. We have multiple pages, and on those pages, we tell you which seafood is the most sustainable and what you should be ordering, and the ones that are most likely to be fraud, to not be what they say. When you see red snapper on the menu, almost 100% of the time, it's not red snapper. We have a great section on there, what to do if you have a heart attack. It's probably the best page on the internet, better than the American Heart Association, for what the symptoms are for men versus women, and what to do if you're alone and you have a heart attack. That's also on our resource section, along with, I told you, lots of Easter suggestions, and I hope that Easter basket's going to be full of some organic candy this year. Recycling information. We have multiple things on that. Sulfite foods, aspartame, artificial sweeteners. We have a bunch of information on that. So please check out our Smart Health Talk website. Find us on Pinterest. We have something like 250,000 pins on Pinterest. Plenty of stuff for you there. We have a whole folder on like diet foods, things to eat that'll help you lose weight. So please join us on Pinterest and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. We are part of all those, so please go and find us and reach out to us and go to our Blue Monarch Project and buy some milkweed. We're going to have some more great things that we're going to start offering for sale too, because we need to raise money to help the monarchs and buy more seeds and try to get more. We have some units that we want to buy so we can put the caterpillars in there and keep them away from flies. Especially the flies lay eggs in the monarch butterfly caterpillar, and it's disgusting. It's just totally disgusting. So I want to keep the caterpillars outside but away from the flies. I need to buy like a big unit for that. We do have a donation page on our our Blue Monarch Project website, and if you do donate, that's what we'll probably be using. the money for it because we want to grow some more native varieties of milkweed, and those seeds are more expensive. So if you want to help us, that would be really great because we could use it, and it makes it even more special when people in the community have pitched in. So I hope that this was an informative show for you and that I got to you a little bit where you're saying, hey, Elaine, okay, I'm going to start buying more organic products. And if your baby is on infant formula, please buy organic infant formula. Most of that's full of GMOs and high fructose corn syrup. Start your baby off right. Breastfeeding is always best. And if you're thinking of birth control, another commercial I've seen that disturbs me are the IUDs with the hormones. Just everyone, I highly recommend an IUD. I think they're fantastic. One of probably the best birth control choices out there. But please don't get the one with the hormone. Get the one without the hormones, okay? All right, so I'm Elaine McFadden, and I'm here if you need me, so reach out anytime, and I'll be back here next Tuesday. Next week, we have Carrie Gillum. She is going to be joining us. She is an incredible author. She's going to be giving us the latest on what's happening at these different trials against Roundup, so stay tuned for that. Thanks. Thank you so much. Bye.
Out the window, visions of the earth. Sign me up now, make sure you use your smart. Take a walk on the wild side.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.